What's going on, guys? Welcome into Rover Sports today. This has been on my mind for quite the morning, the last couple of days. It's a great reflection of social media. I guess I can title this a rant about the Indianapolis Colts fans and their reaction to Andrew Luck. They were at the preseason game. It was Saturday night, and Andrew Luck retired, and they booed Andrew Luck retiring. Where should I begin? A lot of people in the media have pointed out that the Indianapolis Colts fans are despicable for booing, that the Indianapolis Colts fans are not respecting Andrew Luck. There is a reason why Andrew Luck wanted the press conference on a Sunday morning instead of a Saturday night. The fact that the Colts fans booed, I don't blame those Indianapolis Colts fans. Those Indianapolis Colts fans are not ungrateful for Andrew Luck being their quarterback. The Indianapolis Colts fans are not saying that they're not saying that the rehab and everything that he's gone through in the last 7 years of his life, they're not saying that, that rehab wasn't serious. They're just disappointed, because they expected Andrew Luck for the next 10 years to be the starting quarterback of the Indianapolis Colts. And with Andrew Luck being quarterback for the Indianapolis Colts, he's that talented, he's that good of a guy, and now it's over. All those hopeful, all those experiences with Andrew Luck that the Colts fans were ready to take on. They were ready to go after Super Bowls. If Andrew Luck continued to play for the next 5 years with Frank Reich, Chris Ballard, who I think is a top 5 general manager in all of football, the fact that Chris Ballard acquired T.Y. Hilton, he was able to get in Darius Leonard last year, he was able to get Eric Ebron in there, a touchdown machine, Quentin Nelson, the 6th round pick. He even added Rock Ya-Sin. Ben Benegu's had an amazing preseason. Chris Ballard is rock solid, and he's very honest. And his approval rating is great. And the fact that he pivoted from Josh McDaniels, who left them high and dry, and was able to bring in Frank Reich, Andrew Luck's career was starting to really even get better and better. He was very good with Chuck Pagano. He took a beating. He had some memorable experiences, like all the wins against the Texans, all the wins against the Titans, the game against the Chiefs where he had that amazing comeback. Andrew Luck was ready to reap the benefits. He had a coach in Frank Reich who really cared. Ryan Grigson was done. Matt Eberflus is a great defensive coordinator. The roster is really starting to get good, and now Chris Ballard was leading the ship. So if Andrew Luck, he had a really successful 6 years in the NFL. And if he would have played maybe 7 more seasons, I think Luck would have maybe gone to 2 Super Bowls in the next 8 years. He probably would have at least won 1 Super Bowl. And then you look at Aaron Rodgers. Rodgers has won a Super Bowl. Drew Brees has only played in 1 Super Bowl. So Kurt Warner has won a Super Bowl. Andrew Luck would have been a Hall of Fame football player, and he was 29, and he was getting ready to enter into his prime. And the Colts fans were gearing up for dominance. With Pagano, with Grigson, it wasn't always the most stable thing going for them. And imagine a person, it's not like Art Modell selling the Browns, but imagine somebody goes and says, your franchise now, your franchise quarterback, your franchise is now going to take a deep spiral for the next, probably 5, 6, 7 years. Andrew Luck's retirement, now the Indianapolis Colts have left themselves in a situation where the Colts as a franchise now, they're nowhere close now to competing for a Super Bowl. I mean, you have Jacoby Brissett as your quarterback. You're not going to compete for a Super Bowl with that. Chad Kelly, I highlighted how talented he is, but he hasn't been able to be mentally stable for years on end. He's not the same guy as Andrew Luck. Andrew Luck's so smart. Andrew Luck is beloved. He's totally the opposite of Chad Kelly in terms of his personality, in terms of being a reliable guy that's working, that's in there every day. And the Colts fans, like people live in this black and white world. And there's and the gray area and the nuance to the situation needs to be addressed. So Andrew Luck had the offseason. If he would have retired in April, if he would have retired in May, it's 2 weeks before the season. Vontae Davis retired in week 2 of the season. He was ripped apart for it. Andrew Luck is free to retire. Nobody's saying that Andrew Luck is forced to play football. No one is saying that, Andrew Luck has to play. No one is also, there's really a small there's really almost nobody arguing that Andrew Luck doesn't have the right to leave the game and that injuries suck. I don't think people are saying, Andrew Luck, his injuries weren't that big of a deal and he should have continued to suffer and play the game of football. I don't think people are talking about that. But the fact is, Andrew Luck scheduled a press conference for Sunday because he knew how emotional it would be. These Colts fans have battled with Andrew Luck. They were ready to reap the rewards. They had to deal with Ryan Grigson. And isn't it hypocritical to say, Colt fans don't like what it is to walk in Andrew Luck's shoes? Well, the national media doesn't know what it's like to be a Colts fan. I'm not from Indiana. I don't know what it's like to be a Colts fan. And the national media and these people are getting on Colts fans for being upset that their franchise was ruined in a matter of seconds. I mean, the Colts fans this year and Andrew Luck, they were gearing up for Andrew Luck to play week 1. They were ready for 10 more years of Luck. They were ready to continue their marriage with their franchise quarterback and Andrew Luck. And Andrew Luck just deserted them and left. And they shouldn't feel any, what are they, robots and not going to feel any emotion? What, should they have just looked like this? Should they have been happy and applauded? Yay, Andrew Luck, what a great career, man. Dude, you did awesome. Thanks so much, bro. Okay, we'll go into Jacoby Brissett. Okay, we'll take a flyer on a rookie quarterback. It's a crapshoot. You could pick Jake Locker, you could pick Blaine Gabbert, Jamarcus Russell, and you could be screwed. Andrew, the Colts could be horrible for about 4 or 5 more years. They could be horrible for the next decade without Andrew Luck as their quarterback. I mean, look at the Browns, look at the Redskins, look at teams that have drafted Brady Quinn, Brandon Weeden, Patrick Ramsey. The Redskins have Rex Grossman, Jason Campbell, all these average quarterbacks. You could be a franchise that is just that has gone from the penthouse, and now you're literally, the franchise is going to be horrible because of this move. What do you expect Colts fans to just be happy? And the news just broke. They're human beings. It's not the same as Michael Irvin and fans booing an injury. Michael Irvin booed by Eagles fans, or Kevin Durant and the Toronto Raptor fans. Because that player was seriously hurt. That player couldn't even walk off the floor. That was barbaric. But Andrew Luck deciding to retire, he's walking off the field, and he just leaves the franchise high and dry, and there's no plan now. That's really disappointing, and Colts fans were ready to rock. Do you expect them to be happy, or do you expect them to go, yeah, no problem, Andrew Luck. Okay, what am I getting tomorrow to eat? Chick-fil-A isn't open on Sunday. Am I going to Waffle House tomorrow? What do I watch on? I wonder who won that Miami-Florida game. Okay, Andrew Luck, starting quarterback, retires. Okay, no big deal. I enjoyed going to this preseason game. Do you want them to just sit there? Do you want them to be freaking robots? Do you want them to just applaud? It's easy for you to say in your fancy studios in New York or LA. It's easy for you to say, you know what, these fans of Andrew Luck should have just applauded him. You're not a Colt fan. You don't bleed Colt blue. You probably never even been to Indianapolis, and you're telling these fans how to act. And then you're telling them, well, they haven't walked in Andrew Luck's shoes. Well, you haven't walked in a Colts fan shoes and have your franchise ruined in a matter of seconds. Who the hell knows what's going to happen to the Colts franchise now? Now you're talking about Teddy Bridgewater trade, Tyrod Taylor trades. You're talking about Jacoby Brissett. You're talking yourself into Chad Kelly. This Colts team, not only for this year, but for the future, no one knows what's going to happen to the Colts fans. And you expect them to be robots. You expect human beings to just be completely unemotional. That's not healthy. That's not healthy at all. The Colts fans who booed, okay, it's called, the fact is it was Saturday night, and it's not like he retired in the spring. And even Brett Favre, when he came back to Green Bay after 3 years, Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers now are friends. Brett Favre and the Green Bay Packers fans, they hated Brett Favre. When he came back in the Lambeau, they booed Brett Favre. And I know he was playing for the Vikings, but then Brett Favre came back and he's now in the Packers Hall of Fame. So time heals, and there's a reason why Andrew Luck wanted to do it on a Sunday. Mornings are less emotional than nights for most people. It's a preseason game. People are at the game. Breaking the news that way was not planned for a reason, because you knew about the backlash, because you're basically, the franchise now, basically with Andrew Luck not there, you're now saying, who the hell knows who's going to be the quarterback of this franchise? What's going to happen to this franchise? The quarterback's the most important position in all of sports. And people are just acting like the Colts fans should have been apathetic and not said anything, should have had one tear under their eye or a couple of tears. People are just not wired. That's not being a human. That's not being an emotional human being. That's being a robot. That's just dumb. And people don't understand the nuances of the situation. They live in a black and white world. It's just like if you say to your friend, you know what, an acquaintance of yours, I can't go to your wedding, and it's 3 days away, and the person expects you to go to the wedding, and it's a good excuse. But if you gave him 2 months of notice, it's a completely different situation. It's just like anything. When you're late, when you don't give somebody notice, they're going to get upset with you. If you can't do a group project, or you leave somewhere, or you don't fulfill a commitment and it's a couple of days away compared to giving them notice. And Andrew Luck in this situation did not give Colts fans notice. He did not give the Indianapolis franchise any notice. And the doctors who said it's an ankle strain, it's a calf strain, they've never been straightforward with the fans about the sincerity of the injury or about Andrew Luck possibly retiring. So they didn't have any way to brace themselves for the fall of the news. And it would have been even maybe more rude, or maybe even more concerning, if the fans just sat there like the media is saying they should have, and just were like, okay, Andrew Luck retires, okay. Bye, Andrew. Okay, peace, man. See you later. You don't expect fans to be upset, sad, emotional about Andrew Luck. They love Andrew Luck. They were getting ready for 10 more years with this guy. The Colts fans love him, and by booing, they're upset that he's not going to be with them. That's what people don't understand. The bond there, and now it's broken. It's just like a divorce. You're married to them, and you're married to a woman, you're married to a wife, and then you get divorced, and the wife, what are they just going to be like? All right. Yeah, we were expecting, 10 more years of marriage, 15, that the relationship isn't healthy. And they're not like, okay, peace. It's just ridiculous. The Colts fans have a right to be really angry, because the next 10 years now, who the hell knows what's going to happen? It's really disappointing. And Andrew Luck, and they didn't have time. And in 2 years, there's going to be a ceremony celebrating Andrew Luck and celebrating everything. It's just like Richard Sherman going off on Michael Crabtree or any post-game interview with an athlete. Emotions are hot, right after a game. Middle fingers going out of the stadium like Michael Vick. Emotions are hot after football. Emotions are hot in the moment for athletes, for situations. And just, people in the media say to treat athletes as human beings. But if you love Andrew Luck and you're expecting 12 more years of Andrew Luck, this is the most shocking and sudden retirement ever in the history of the league. Nobody knows how to react to it. It's shocking. It's absurd. And the Colts fans in that moment were just relaying effectively the news of Andrew Luck retiring. It's not that they're like, you know what, Andrew Luck's a wimp, he's a wussy, he's the P word. They're not all. That's not what they're reflecting at all, because It's just not. They love Andrew Luck. They want him to play. They support Andrew Luck. They're so upset now that not only their franchise, but Andrew Luck is not going to be there. They're ready to roll with Andrew Luck. And do you expect fans, like at the end of the preseason game, that are expecting Andrew Luck to play till he's 40 years old, just like Brady and Breeze, to suddenly just look at his whole career? When they're thinking about the now, they're thinking Andrew Luck's going to be back in 2 seasons, and there's a chance Andrew Luck comes back to the NFL. It's just like people, these people, just these moral police, just expect the Colts fans and just expect the human beings to be robots all the time. The media in New York that are getting on the Colts fans. It's easy to say from your Twitter account when you have no skin in the game, when you're not a diehard Colts fan. It's really easy to say, well, the fans shouldn't have booed a legend or a great player in Andrew Luck, and injuries are a serious thing. And nobody is saying, really no one is saying that Andrew Luck should have continued to play football for the next 7 or 8 years and risk his body and his livelihood and years of his life playing the game of football. No one is out there saying that Andrew Luck shouldn't have the right to leave the game of football if he does not want to play or if it's unsafe. That's not it. The people arguing that that Andrew Luck that you don't know what it's like for Andrew Luck to play the game of football. That's kind of almost an argument that doesn't need to be mentioned, because Andrew Luck's not a slave to the game of football. He doesn't have to play the game of football. He's not a slave to the Colts, okay? No one is saying that Andrew Luck. That's not what we're discussing. We're discussing the immediate reaction to these fans that are human beings and their next 10 years of their lives as Colts fans, of their lives in general, of their general life, because football is one of the biggest pleasures that people have in their lives. Now, this franchise centerpiece is now gone. The franchise is on the brink now of destruction, the Indianapolis Colts. It's very possible that now with the quarterback, if you make some wrong decisions at that position, if you bring in guys that are not successful in the NFL, if you go and get Kyle Bowler, if you go and get a Blake Bortles, it's very possible that your franchise is going to be horrible for the next 10 years. And when you had Andrew Luck, every year Andrew Luck played, you had a great chance to make the playoffs and win Super Bowls. And now you've had the best coach that you've probably had since Tony Dungy in there, and Frank Reich. Really smart offensive mind. You have a terrific general manager. Great times were ahead. As a Colts fan, you were the most stable franchise, and then on Saturday night, everything that you have been getting excited about for the next 5 to 10 years, it wasn't even about the season, but for the next 10 years, all of that in a second was destroyed. There's going to be mourning. There's going to be people passionate and upset. It's really easy to go and tweet from your computer that Colts fans are pieces of shit. It's really easy to say that they're shit for booing Andrew Luck. It's very easy, but you're not an Indianapolis Colts fan. And that's really my rant, is that it's nuanced. If he would have retired in April, the team would have had the ability then to adjust. It's just like canceling something on the eve of a wedding or of a big commitment, and the season was happening. Well, where do you draw the line? I mean, Bears fans got on Jay Cutler for not coming back in the NFC Championship game when he was hurt. Fans boo for poor performances all the time. If a player is doing poorly in a game, they'll boo, even though the player is laying their livelihood on the line. If a player is playing poorly, if Luck threw 3 interceptions, they would still boo anyway, even though Luck is risking his body in that said moment. Every player is, so then you should never boo by that. You should never boo any player, because they are risking mentally and physically playing this game of football. Then you should almost never boo. They're trying their absolute best. Come on, but fans are fans. It's just a ridiculous standard and people are just suggesting that the Colts fans be apathetic and not care or be robots. And it's hypocritical, because they don't know what it's like to be an Indianapolis Colt fan. And the Colt fans are grateful for Andrew Luck. But again, the franchise now, I mean, it's just a combination of so many things. It's not even about Andrew Luck. It's about the stability of the team that they love. and being successful. Yes, it's about that, but it's also about Andrew Luck. They were so excited because Andrew Luck went through so much shit, and Andrew Luck, I believe, is starting to turn the corner. And their offensive line and their play caller with Quentin Nelson now being added to the offensive line with Braden Smith, with Frank Reich as a play caller that would actually start running the football. Andrew Luck was healthy last year. He was upright. And I believe if Andrew Luck, I mean, you don't know what's going on with his ankles and stuff, but he should have taken less punishment with Frank Reich as a coordinator, because Frank Reich knows what he's doing. So those were good times ahead. The Colts were the most stable organization. There was nothing of doubt. And now, in a snap of a finger, the Colts now, you don't know what's going to happen. They could be the laughing stock of the league now for the next decade and 12 years. And the people that are just like, I think it's even disrespectful to Andrew Luck to just say, oh yeah, Brissett, oh, you guys will be fine with Jacoby Brissett. Oh, I know Andrew Luck retired, but Chad Kelly, this guy that punched dudes at Clemson, that fights on the field. Oh yeah, he's going to come in here and he's just going to be your quarterback for like 11 to 12 years. Yeah, you guys will be totally fine. No problem. Andrew Luck, yeah, he was a great player, but you guys are fine. That's disrespectful. That's even more disrespectful than booing Andrew Luck. That's taking away the impact that Andrew Luck had on this franchise. Oh yeah, you guys are next man up, you know? It's only Andrew Luck. It's only your franchise quarterback. No problem. Let's roll with Jacoby. Let's roll with Chad Kelly. Yeah, no problem at all. Yeah, you guys will be fine. Yeah, you Indianapolis, you guys will be fine. Yeah, you might miss the playoffs, but I don't give a shit. I'm not a Colts fan, but Andrew Luck risked everything for you guys. It's just bullshit. People are telling other people how to act. When people that have never lived a life, never lived a day as Colts fans, are telling Colts fans that, again, the most shocking retirement really in NFL history, a guy who's 29 years old, that you're expecting 10 more years at the most important position in sports, you're telling them to just be, you're telling them how to act and be. I mean, that's so egotistical. That is just so, I really think it's egotistical of those talking heads to tell other people how to react. And now if a player gets hurt, I think that's what, like the booing Durant or booing Victor Cruz or Michael Irvin. I do think that that's wrong. And yeah, maybe those fans in the moment would not do it again, but now they've had a couple of days to digest. There's a reason why it was a Sunday press conference. So those are my thoughts on the Colts fans and everything that's going on around Andrew Luck. And it's a really tough situation to be in. And yeah, being a fan is easier than being Andrew Luck. I certainly understand that. But at the same time, I mean, fans are allowed to be emotional. They're allowed to enjoy, laugh, smile, and cry about their football team. That's what makes the NFL such a wonderful, wonderful game, is the passion that goes into the NFL. It's how special the NFL is. It's the competitive nature of fans is what keeps this game great. It really does. And for Andrew Luck, I certainly wish he gets healthier. He really did have a very successful career as an NFL player. And if he stayed healthy, played more years, he might have been like a Hall of Fame talent, but he was incredible. And Andrew Luck, nobody knows what he had to go through with the rehab. And it is very sad that every year he couldn't stay healthy. And he did love the game. I think he did love his teammates. I don't think that there was a lack of commitment there. It's just that fans in Indianapolis, I believe, have the right to be upset because now they're franchise and they were deprived, I think, of stability, of competing for Super Bowls, and they were deprived of seeing an amazing young player fulfill probably 65-70% of his career as an NFL football player. And they were gearing up for 10 or 12 years, and that's the thought process. No one expected Andrew Luck. He's not even 30. No one expected him to quit forever football. Nobody expected that. So it's just a normal reaction for those fans to be just completely distraught. Any emotion is understood from my standpoint of view, but of course the elites and the media have to go out there and they have to tell people how to act all the time, even though they're not even fans of that team. They've never been to Indy, and they don't know what it's like to be a Colt fan. And there's just no empathy for Colts fans out there. And that's what's getting me today. All right. Thanks, guys.